everyone, it's Meg, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top 10 favourite books of 2019. I genuinely don't know where 2019 has gone. It has been absolutely crazy. Like, I swear it was January like yesterday. But we are nearing the end of the year, so I thought I would talk to you guys about my favourite books that I have read throughout 2019. This list does not include any rereads because obviously I gave my rereads a 5 out of 5 stars because I loved them so very much. And I had an amazing reading year. I am actually filming this at the end of November, so I have all my videos pre-filmed because December is going to be crazy. But so far from when I am filming this, I have read 49 books. I will have definitely have read 50 books by the end of the year, which is amazing since I set my goal at 40. So that is amazing. I'm so proud of myself. And I've also read so many amazing books. Like, I probably could have done more on this list, but I'm definitely just keeping it to 10 because otherwise this would be an extremely long video. So I'm really excited to share with you guys some of my favourite books that I read in 2019. So without further ado, let's get into the video. This list isn't necessarily in order. I wanted to have a top 5, but it's going to be like a top 6 or a top 7 because there's just so many amazing books that I have read. I don't feel like there is really much of an order to this. They are all my favourites. I all love them very, very dearly. Number 10 on this list is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Obviously, I'd like to think you guys will have heard of this book. If not, welcome to BookTube. This book blew up BookTube in 2018. I think it was 2018 when it blew up at any rate. And I didn't read it, but I listened to the audiobook earlier this year because I was just really curious about what the story would be like, and I ended up really enjoying it. This book was historical fiction. It was so intricate. I just basically all I knew about it was that it was about a film star called Evelyn Hugo who hires a journalist to basically write an autobiography of her life. And it covers topics that I didn't know that it was going to cover. I knew it was going to cover the fact that Evelyn was bisexual, but it actually covers it a lot more than I thought it would. Like, it was a very main part in the story, and I don't know, some reason I just didn't think about that. But I really loved that aspect of it. I loved Evelyn. She's very imperfect, but you grow to love her, even if she doesn't always do the best things. And so many of the characters are just lovable, like Celia and Henry. I think he's called Henry. Wow, that's really bad of me. And I'm so glad that I got to love a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I did also read Daisy Jones and the Six this year, and it's not on this top 10. I did enjoy it, but I feel like the hype ruined it for me because I read it just after it came out. So that ruined it for me, and I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I had listened to the audiobook. But yeah, Evelyn Hugo is definitely my favourite of the 2 that I have read so far, and I look forward to reading more of Taylor's other work in the future. Next up, I have a graphic novel series, and that is the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. I was introduced to Alice this year. I read Radio Silence, I Was Born for This, and I also started reading her Heartstopper graphic novel series, and I have absolutely fallen head over heels for her writing and for this story. This is a story about 2 boys named Nick and Charlie, and they basically meet and then they fall in love, and it's about first relationships and sexuality, and it is just so wonderful. It gives you all the feels. It's just so heartwarming. These boys are everything. I devoured the first one. I ended up pre-ordering the second book, and I have pre-ordered the 3rd volume, which comes out in February, and I love the art style. It's very simple yet very effective, and I just really enjoy it. I love it so much. It is amazing, and it's a great starter if you're looking to get into graphic novels more, as I would love to get into graphic novels, and this is the first graphic novel that I have ever read, I believe. I've got 3 more on my bookshelves. But yes, I absolutely love this. These boys are everything. It is so sweet and wholesome, and I cannot wait for the 3rd volume to come out next year. For number 7, I have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is obviously a very OG book, I feel like, when it comes to BookTube. Everybody read it years ago. I don't know when it came out, but whenever it came out, which was quite a while ago, and everyone seemed to love it. And I read this for the mental health readathon, which happened in May, and I picked it up a lot sooner than I was actually planning on, but I'm really glad I did pick it up because oh my goodness, this book is a gem. This is about a girl named Kath and her twin who go to university, and it's about their first year in university, and Kath deals with social anxiety and she doesn't like to socialise much, and she also writes fan fiction for a series called Simon Snow. I could relate to Kath so much throughout this, especially with the mental health rep. I feel like it was very accurate, and she is a character that you grow to love a lot, and Levi is amazing. He is like perfect, he's wonderful, and Regan is such a laugh as well, her roommate. I think she is fab, and again it's just such a comforting book to me. It was a book that constantly made me smile. It was a book that I was always looking forward to reading. It was really easy to follow along with, and even though it is quite a thick book, like it's probably about just under 450 pages, but it's a very quick read. I read this in a week, which for a thick book is pretty good for me. So I really, really enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I got to read a book that so many other people really enjoyed, and the fact that I loved it too. And yes, this is definitely one of my favourites, and I'm definitely going to be returning to this and rereading it in the future. Next up, I have another graphic novel, which is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. I read this for the Gilmore Girls readathon back in October, as it's one that I've been wanting to get for ages, and I didn't have a physical copy, so I read it on script, and again, obviously with all these books, I absolutely adored it. This is about a prince named Prince Sebastian who hires a seamstress called Frances to make him dresses, as by day he's a prince, at night he's Lady Crystalia, one of the most fancy and fashionable people in France. And oh my god, this book is just wonderful. I just love this. Again, it's like Heartstopper, it gives me all the feels. I love the characters, I love the illustrations, I love the topics that it discusses about sexuality, and I just love it. Like, I'm gonna repeat myself, it's very similar to a lot of the other books. It was just adorable, and I really, really want to get myself the physical copy so then I can reread it, because I really want to reread it very soon because I loved it so much. And obviously I want to read it physical so then I can kind of have the full effect of all the illustrations. But again, an absolutely wonderful read, and would highly recommend if you are also looking for a new graphic novel read. I feel like the last book I said it was number 6, but it was actually number 7. I think this book is now number 6, like, I think. And that book is Again But Better by Christine Riccio. I know this book has had a lot of mixed opinions on BookTube. Some people love it, some people don't. Personally, I really enjoyed it. Obviously, that is why it is on this list. I picked this book on audiobook, and I'm actually really glad I did. I really, really enjoyed the audiobook. I love the narrator, how she portrayed Shane. Shane was a character that I felt like I could really, really relate to. She was me, like her sense of humour, how she acted, it was just like, it's me, literally. And she also kind of gave me Miranda vibes, which I absolutely love because I love Miranda. This book is basically about a girl named Shane who goes to do a semester, I believe, in London, as she is from America, and it is about starting over again, as she didn't have the best experience whilst doing university back home in the States. I really loved the first half of the book when it was talking about travel, about all the places they went to. I love hearing about all their travels, and obviously the second half of the book is a bit more hard-hitting, a bit more serious, and I love to see how the characters mature, especially Shane, how she grows into her own a lot more throughout the story. And it was just a book that I felt I could really relate to, and it is also on the slightly older side of YA, as Shane is obviously at university, and I feel like I would have related to this even more when I was at uni. And if you are at uni, I would recommend that you pick this up, as I feel like it's the sort of book that you would be able to relate to, as kind of the topics that discuss about your future and knowing what to do with your life. I thought that was a part of the book that I could really relate to as well. But overall, I did really, really enjoy it. I'll probably try and physically read it when I do reread it. And yes, I loved it so much. I am really glad that I got to pick it up, and yeah, it was wonderful. I really loved it, and yeah, it was just a great read. Now we are kind of down to my top 5, I guess, with Again But Better probably counted as a 6. But this is kind of my top 5. It's not really in an order because, to be honest with you, I love all these books with all of my heart. And the first one is A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. Again, I've talked about Laura quite a lot on my channel, this book and another book which is also on this top 5 list. But this is the first book of hers that I've read, and it is a historical fiction about a girl named Lou. This book is set in the 1920s, and Lou basically lives in Cornwall, and she meets these Cardew family who live on this island off the coast of Penllyn, and it is about her summer with these fancy rich siblings. And oh my god, like, you guys have probably heard me talk about Laura's writing and her books before, but you're going to hear me talk about them again, so sorry not sorry. Her writing is absolutely stunning. Like, from the moment there's a prologue in this book, and it is probably one of my favourite parts of the book. It is so descriptive, it is so immersive and engaging. You feel like you are on this island in the middle of Cornwall with these characters, you feel like you are their friends. It just feels so real and just so immersive, which is what I really love about Laura's writing. Her characters are also amazing. I love Lou. The Cardew siblings aren't always the most likeable, but you do appreciate them. And obviously Lou's family is also amazing, and I just love it. Lou is also a very strong character, which is the same for Laura's other book, which I will talk about in a little bit. But yes, I cannot talk highly of her books enough. Please go and read them if you are watching this. I wasn't a fan of historical fiction starting off the year, but this has changed my mind, so I'm now hopefully going to delve a bit more into historical fiction. So yes, please go and read this book. It is wonderful, and also her other book, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Next up, I have the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaffer and Annie Barrows. Again, this was a book that took me by surprise. It is also a historical fiction, and again, I absolutely fell in love with it. Some of you might have heard of this book as it has been turned into a film, but this is basically about a girl named Juliet who is a journalist and a writer, and this is set just after World War II has finished, so it is technically a World War II historical fiction, but like post World War II. And basically one day she receives a letter from a man in Guernsey who she then develops a pen pal relationship with, I guess, and then she starts receiving letters from all these other people during the German occupation, and you hear about their stories and how they kind of intertwine with Juliet and how it affects her and her life. And this is, oh my god, again, so wonderful. This is told in letter format, and you feel really connected to the characters, like you are truly with them. And I've just realised the copy that I've bought, because it is secondhand, somebody has been underlining it. You can't see, but somebody has underlined it, so I'm gonna have to go and rub that out so then I can sort it out again. But anyway, you get attached to the characters so easily. I fell in love with Juliet. She's such an amazing protagonist and main character. I absolutely adore Sydney and all of the other characters who lived on Guernsey. And yeah, it's just such a wonderful story. It's a very character-driven story. If you love that, then I would definitely recommend reading this. And even if you have heard of this book but weren't sure, again, go and pick it up because it's so wonderful. I love it with all of my heart, and I'm so glad I got to read it, and I cannot wait until I can get my hands on the film so I can watch it. But yes, absolutely wonderful. I will 100% be rereading this in the future because I love it with all of my heart. This is kind of my top 3, but kind of not, because I love all these books dearly, again, like the other ones. But next up we have another Laura Wood book, which is Under a Dancing Star. Again, this is a historical fiction, but it is set in the 1930s, and it follows a girl named Bee who goes to live with her uncle in Italy for the summer, and it is basically about her summer in Italy. And I loved A Sky Painted Gold, but I feel like I actually loved this book a little bit more. Again, I love Italy, so the setting of Italy was just absolutely marvellous. Again, it was very immersive. I felt like I was staying at this villa in the middle of the Italian countryside, which was absolutely wonderful. And I love the characters again. Bea is such a strong female character, just like Lou in Laura's other book. And the other characters in here, like all the artists that live there, are amazing. And the romance is wonderful. You keep it guessing, you don't know what's going to happen. It has you pulling at your heartstrings by the end of it, and it is just, oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This is also an extremely funny book. I love the humour in here. It makes you laugh out loud in some moments, which I always love in a book. And this book does also kind of cover the topic of some political elements, because this is just before World War II starts. So there is a little bit of political intrigue in this book, I guess. Not a lot, but just a little bit, because it is something that is discussed between the artists and Bea throughout her summer in Italy. But again, I said it all before with Laura's other book. This is so wonderful. I will be rereading this. I love it with all of my heart. Please go and read this. If you were going to read one of the books on this list, please read this one and Laura's other book. It's so wonderful. I'm going to shut up now because you're probably tired of me talking about them, but yeah, love them. Love this book. Love Laura. Like, yes, I cannot wait till I get more of her writing, because I need more, like, as soon as possible. The second to last book I have on this list is The Poet X by Elizabeth Azevedo. I have been meaning to read this book ever since it came out in 2017, or was it 2018? I don't know. Whenever it first came out, I've been meaning to read it, but I kept putting it off. And then I read it in spring, and like, this book destroyed me in all the best ways possible. This basically follows a girl named Ziamara who is in school. She's in her junior year. But it's basically a coming of age story, and this book is written in verse, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much, because you guys should know how much I love poetry, and I've never read a novel that's been written in verse before, so I found that really interesting, and how it was amazing how effective it was for how little words were in it, if you see what I mean. I just love this book. As you can see, I tabbed it quite a lot, and this was just such a joy. It covers topics such as obviously coming of age, religion, your future, what you want to do, and just kind of finding yourself. And again, it was a book that I could really relate to. I love Ziamara, I love the story, I just love everything about this book. It really had me feeling everything, and also kind of, I love how the aspect of spoken word was part of this book, how Ziamara loved to write and found her voice through writing and found a community through her writing and her performing. And yeah, I just love this book with all of my heart. And I know that Elizabeth is coming out with another book in verse next year, which I will definitely be reading, and I'm very looking forward to getting my hands on it. But yeah, I adore this book with all of my heart. I'm so glad that I finally got to pick it up this year. I will definitely be rereading this at some point in the future, and I cannot wait to read her new book which comes out next year. And we are on to the last book on this video. Again, it's probably not number one, but it is like in this little top spot. And that is Eleanor Elephant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. You guys, I'd like to think, should know how much I love this book. And I was going to reread it towards the end of this year. I don't know if I'm going to have time now, especially with Christmas being so crazy. But I love this book. It's the first book that I read of 2019. It was getting rave reviews, so I knew I had to read it because it was really interesting. It was a book that was really intriguing, so I picked it up. And yeah, I loved it, obviously. This book is basically about a girl named Eleanor Elephant who lives a very mundane life. She goes to work every day, she does the same thing. She buys 2 bottles of vodka every weekend to drink by herself. She doesn't really have any friends, she doesn't socialise. And that is kind of all you need to know about this book. That's all I'm going to say, because I find it really hard to do this book justice when I'm trying to describe it. This was, again, a wonderful book. Like I said, I find it so hard to describe my thoughts on this book and what the book is about, because I feel like it's something that you need to read for yourself. This book covers topics such as loneliness and mental health, and you follow Eleanor, who isn't the most likeable character at the start of the book, but you grow to love her and understand her, to know why she is the way that she is. And you love her for that, and you get to see her journey of how she grows and blossoms into a better version of herself and kind of comes to terms with her past and what happened, and how she's slowly moving forward and experiencing new things for the first time, such as love and friendship and kindness, which she has never really had in her life at all. I love the topic of loneliness in this book and how it has been discussed, and also the topic of mental health, as well as this does also include therapy sessions that Eleanor goes to, which I found really interesting, as not many books that deal with mental health also deal with the therapy side of it, so it's really nice to see that. And this is just a wonderful book. It's also quite funny. I feel like there is some Miranda moments in this book as well. Like, if you've read it, you might pick up on a couple of them, but there's one at the beginning which is absolutely hilarious. And yeah, Eleanor is just a very complicated, lonely character that you grow to love, and you love watching her journey, watching her thrive. And even though it is a very sad and emotionally hard-hitting book, it is just such a wonderful and hopeful read at the same time. And I really want to do another reread very soon, because I want to annotate it, because I didn't really do annotating when I first started reading this book at the beginning of the year. But yes, absolutely love this book. 100% recommend picking it up if you have not already. It is wonderful and I cannot wait to reread it. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing my favourite books that I read throughout 2019. Again, I love all these books with all of my heart. I had probably the best reading year ever. I have read some wonderful books, and I cannot wait to see what 2020 brings, as scary as it sounds. Hopefully I'm going to have an even more amazing reading year than I have this year. Let me know in the comments down below what are your favourite books that you have read during 2019. I would love to know, or if you have read any of the books that I've mentioned and your opinions on them, because I would love to know as always. If you like this video, then please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more bookish videos from me, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and little bell icon so you'll be noted every time I post a new video. As always, I've leave links to my social media along with the links to my Goodreads in the description down below for you guys. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!